Hi everyone, Brienne from Marvel, and I'm going to be coloring the Amazing Spider-Man today. I think everyone in the world just about knows who Spider-Man is, and I'm going to be doing, I was thinking about doing like a black and kind of grayish version of Spider-Man, but I'm actually going to change my mind on that one. I'm going to stick to the classic colors, red and blue. And then I'm just gonna work on doing the background. There's a little bit of destruction happening back here, an explosion here. Looks like he has webbing or torn fabric or something here. I think it's webbing because he's in that the shooting hand mode there and here too. So that being said, let's get started. I'm actually going to get my background out of the way, minus maybe the rocks. I can do the rocks last, but I just want to get the base colors that I want kind of around him. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm actually going to grab my watercolor tool. I'm going to bring my opacity up quite a bit. I'm going to bring my brush size up quite a bit. I like using the watercolor in Marvel. I think it makes for really great backgrounds. The splatter tool is cool too for making backgrounds. I was going to put it on freehand mode, but honestly, there's really not a huge reason for it. So I'm just gonna make like a kind of a darker and then lighter on the inside, but the darker part will probably lighten up at some point because with the explosions there will be, you know, that light that comes from explosions. So I'm just kind of mixing and trying a couple different colors to go around Spidey guy. I kind of want to keep a lighter color around him. I don't want a blue around him because he is going to be blue. So that's why I'm kind of just experimenting with the yellow here. Well, it's not going to be all blue, it's going to be red and blue. So I'm just kind of experimenting and layering some colors here. Can even try orange, get some orange in there. See what else we have that I can use. Because that's going to be pretty much the color he's going to be. I just want something that's going to like stand out. There's a nice yellow. Want a more bright kind of comic book style type yellow. The other ones are just a little bit too pastel-y. That's a bit more like what I was going for. Bring down my opacity a bit for the orange here. A bit of a lower brush size. So yeah, I think everybody, like I said, knows who Spidey guy is, and that's kind of why I wanted to color him. He's a character that just about everybody can identify with, and that's kind of that's a really cool thing to color something that everybody kind of loves and appreciates. If you want a more corrugated look like the watercolor gives, tap instead of dragging, and you'll get that more textured look. If you drag, it fills in very quickly, and then you don't end up with that look as much. And just a little bit lighter around him. And up here, just a little bit darker. I just want to kind of blend it in with the colors I've laid down now. So I'm just going to go and tap around. go a little bit around the edge of where the yellow is, so there's a little bit more interaction there, a little bit more variation. So I'm just tapping, getting these colors in place. Just playing around, really seeing what I can create. I'm using, it's almost like a neon palette. It's called Fantastic. Colors are very much neon inspired, which is probably why I gravitated towards it, because I love my neon colors. Okay, and I think that's good for now. We can always come back and kind of tweak things as we go, but for now I think that's pretty much good. So now I'm going to focus on Spider-Man. There was a great palette I seen here that had some nice red and blues in it. Yes, it was the Heroic palette. So I'm going to use that, and I'm actually going to go and grab my marker tool, and I'm going to, you know what, I'm actually going to fill first and then use my marker tool because we did the background. So I'll fill and then go over it with the marker tool. So I just want to be, let's see here. You can use the metallic fill if you want some built-in depth and shading. You won't be able to tell in smaller areas that it has kind of like that line. It does have some built-in texture, but I'm okay with that because I'm going to be going over it with my marker tool anyway, so it's not going to interrupt my process too much. And I like kind of the effect that you get from laying it down. So we're just gonna stick with filling it. And like I said, I'm gonna stick with red and blue palette for Spidey Guy as well. I will be taking out, I think, my marker tool, my airbrush tool for him as well. We shall see. I'm liking the way this is kind of going down just as is, but I do want to add a little bit of shading and highlighting to his suit as well. So we'll see how I feel once I get all this filled in here. When I seen this picture, I just had to color it. Such a classic looking piece. So mainly one of the reasons why I picked this out right there. I'm not sure how long it's going to take because I do have quite a bit of ideas when it comes to this piece, just the way that it is. But it should take me about an hour to do this. My favorite part is actually adding the details. Filling the color in is kind of way of motion for when you're doing these type of things, but my favorite is when all the colors are kind of in place and then I get to go back and add the details and everything like that. So I'm pretty much tapping. in the middle of each square, if you notice, because I want my shading to be around. I don't want it to be, I want it to be around each individual square, so I'm trying to stick to the middle so I get a symmetrical look for everything that I'm filling here. The little areas you won't notice as much, but definitely the bigger squares I'm trying to tap right in the middle. Some of these areas are broken up, so you won't really notice as much. This should be tapped in the middle since it's like that. So it's just a whole lot of filling for right now. All these little squares do take a while to fill, but the fun is to come. There's going to be some fun stuff coming up. Fill around the Spidey guy emblem. I just adjust my picture for what's most comfortable. I don't usually color straight. I flip my screen a lot, and I recommend possibly trying it and seeing if it works well for you, because it really does make a difference when you are coloring. Like right now I'm just filling, so it's not that big of a deal, but when you're doing more freehand details, it really does make a difference flipping your screen. There's something very therapeutic about filling. It's almost, well, it is satisfying to fill all these pieces. I'm sure that's going to be there. Alright, just make sure I didn't miss anything. I think that's good. And then these parts are going to be blue, but maybe a little bit of a lighter blue. Actually, you know what? There's a better blue for this. Something like that. I need like the really saturated bright blue. That's the way I remember Spider-Man. Okay. I'm trying to remember, were his eyes white on the inside? I think they were, eh? I think they were white on the inside. It's hard to remember. Okay, so now that that's done, that's a big part of the piece right there. So I'm gonna go down to my reds. I'm gonna put it on freehand mode now. And I'm gonna go to my marker tool, and I just want to add, I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. I'm just gonna try a couple things. probably add a little bit of highlighting throughout some areas here. I don't want the opacity up too high. So I'm going to cut through some of that natural shading I did a little bit, I guess. But not a lot, just enough to kind of get some highlighting in here. It's always nice to add a little bit of depth, even to Spider-Man, to any of your pieces. I'm just kind of highlighting through the middle with a lighter red. Can't probably tell too much on the camera, but really does actually make a difference. And then with the darker red, kind of deepen it, and then I'm going to do the opposite and add a little bit of shadow to areas where he's kind of overcrouching himself, maybe under his feet a little bit. I am on freehand mode right now, so I am kind of watching how I'm coloring here. Went out of the lens a bit there, and it happens. So yeah, just gonna add a little bit of shading in certain places here. I don't want to overdo it, but I do want some kind of variation here. Doesn't have to be crazy. Just adding that makes such a difference, and I know it's kind of hard to see because everything was already kind of blocked red with some added shading, but just to like top it up a bit. That's why I wanted to kind of deepen the shading in certain areas. Don't mind me, I've only had one coffee today. I guess I need another. Okay. So it's looking pretty good. I'm liking it a lot, actually. I know that sounds funny to say that about your own pieces, but I really do self-critique my work a lot. Probably sometimes too much. But I think it's important. But other people see your work differently. I notice like some of the favorite pieces that I've colored, other people love, and I'm honestly not that thrilled about it, but I mean, people see your work differently. So keep that in mind too, like if you're being like super critical of yourself, if you have a close loved one or a friend or something, get them to look at your work and be totally honest with you. Someone where you can trust they're going to be honest and give you, like, as long as you can handle criticism, which I think most people can, especially when you're trying to improve. And then you can get an honest opinion on your work, and it kind of helps because you stare at it all the time, and sometimes it's hard to see what other people see. Other people see in your work. And I've had pieces where I've totally loved them, put so much time into them, and they got good reviews, but they weren't as hailed as some of the other stuff that I've done, which I found super interesting. So I'm just going around the fingers and adding a little bit of extra shading, like I said I was doing with the rest of the piece. And I just want to add that character depth, so that's why I'm doing that. He would have looked good just leaving him the color that he was too. That was fine, but I just wanted to go that extra mile and just kind of showcase some other attributes of him. I'm gonna go over the blue part too. I just want to go into this a little bit more. I'm seeing that I want more branching out of this color here. And where is this? So I want a little bit more of this. Whoops, I'm still in freehand mode. I gotta fix that really quickly. Automatic mode, so I'm not going over what I just did. So I just wanted to fix this a bit. I just wasn't digging the way it was flowing into here. And that's stuff that I notice as I start doing a picture. That's why I try not to spend well, sometimes I do, but I try not to spend too much time doing my background, because I sometimes over analyze. And I can't really tell what I want until my picture's near way done, so, or getting done, because your page is always kind of developing and changing. So those colors I had there, I wasn't super digging them. And then over here, I'll probably fade this green out just a bit. Really thinking I like the way the orange transitions into the blue with a little bit of yellow. Just fixing that up a little bit before I move on. Just trying to make that color transition fluidly the way I'm imagining it. Sometimes it takes working a piece a little bit. Okay, so that's kind of a bit more what I was going for. Okay, so good enough for now. We can mod it a bit again as we go. I just have this idea, and when I get an idea stuck in my head, I like it to be executed the way I kind of see it. Okay, let's leave it for now. I do need my blues out though, so I'm gonna stick onto my blues here, and just want to try something up here. I know I said I was done, but then I just saw something. With watercolor, I find it's all in how you kind of layer the colors that gives like the cool effect. So if they're not layered, well, there's no right or wrong way, but I just have, like I said, I have a way that I'm trying to get it here. So by layering them, you get a really cool effect, which I'm kind of going for here. That's good. Now, I know you probably think I'm crazy because I'm doing so much there, but there's just like a cloud effect that I want kind of in the background, like it's a layering sky with like an explosion coming kind of behind him, and I might do some laser effects. So I'm just trying to set up my background so that when I go in and do my effects, I don't have to touch it very much more, and it'll just kind of flow really nicely with what I've already done. So that's the reason why I'm kind of being a little bit picky with it. So I'm just going to bring my brush opacity down on the marker tool. I'm going to bring my brush size up, and I'm just going to brush through the marker, through some of the lines in Spidey Man's pants, up on his shoulders. Now you just want to make sure that you're layering in like a nice way where it's not gonna look like it's just like super choppy. You kind of want to just kind of build these natural highlights to the, it's almost like coloring with Copic markers, and I've used this reference before when doing comic book type stuff. You can think of it that way. The way that you layer it, or the way that you try to get your highlights with a Copic marker, is very, very similar to what I'm doing with Spider-Man here. And you can layer multiple colors in different sizes to achieve that look. But you almost need a steady hand sometimes and pick the right opacity. That's why play with your opacity. Play with your brush size. Don't be afraid of that, because that is really gonna give you the effect that you're looking for by playing with that. And if you're having trouble making a straight, smooth transition, zoom in as close as you can with being able to work, and you'll always be able to make a nice straight line. The closer you are, the easier it is to make a straight line with little interruption or curve, or slanting, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so I think that's all I'm going to do for his suit with the marker. Now if you want to layer a highlight, you can go to the airbrush tool, and you can kind of just almost blend where you have some of the highlights. I call it layering highlights because it's really what you're doing. Layering highlights. And I like using white because it almost makes like a shine to stuff, like whether you're doing lips on a female portrait, or you're doing the shine in a car, or glare in a window. White is really great for highlighting those assets, those features and things. Just see, I'm flipping because I'm not getting that nice straight line that I want. See how close I am? It's because I'm trying to make a straight highlight. You can't even see what I'm coloring at this point. I'm just trying to make a straight highlight all the way down to accentuate the one that I already did. So it's layering again, layering highlights. And then I'm going to go over it with the white again on a bigger brush size and accentuate it even a little bit more. And you can even add some white in the mask if you wanted to. I would recommend going on the freehand mode and just trying it. Just to get that little bit of realism in there. The explosion going and the light that's going to be coming out. There should be a little bit of shine to his costume. Just be aware of the sizes of it, of the lines that you're making, and how much you're pressing. You don't want it to look like that. You want it to look very fluid motion. And you want to kind of gauge the size that you want your highlight as well. One thing that's kind of bothering me here. I'm going to go to my reds. I'm going to deepen up that red, and I just want to shade around the thumb a bit because I feel like the thumb's getting lost in the suit here. I'm just going to shade around the thumb a little bit so it stands out a bit more. And that's a quick trick too, if you're losing something because you have a lot of one color. Just a little bit of shading sometimes makes all the difference. So I'm just going over some of the shading I did with the marker tool and deepening it up just a tad. In certain areas anyway. Highlighting his face, so I don't want it to be too white, if that makes sense. I do want it to stand out a bit. Okay, so there's some kind of random highlights on Spidey guy there. Now I'm going to fill in the rocks. And for that, I'm not sure if I want brown or I want gray. Is it going to be, it looks more like concrete, and he's kind of a city dweller. So maybe I'll do the gray. I think it'll go nicer with the colors too, because we have some pretty bright colors in the background, so I think that having kind of a neutral shade for the rocks would, well, not that brown isn't neutral, but I just think the gray will look better. freehand that a little bit because it's not closed. When the lines aren't closed, don't panic. It's not a big deal. It happens sometimes, especially in detailed pieces. Just take your airbrush tool out or something that you're comfortable using and just try to get the color right and fill it in manually. It's kind of hard to close all the lines in some of these comic book style pieces because they're so intricate, so it does make for a little bit hard to get them all. The explosion, I'm not sure what color I'm going to make the explosion yet. Probably something bright anyway. Again, I was using the metal fill there for some built-in kind of shading effects. Now I'm going to go to my airbrush. I'm going to put it on. Oh, it is on freehand. Good to go then. And I'm just going to manually fill in those areas that I was telling you about. Not a huge deal. Just manually fill those little areas if you're worried about them. Lots of times, honestly, with explosions and stuff, it'll just end up blending naturally anyways. It won't really matter so much. And then I'm going to grab my pencil tool now, and I'm going to grab one of these lighter grays, a little bit lighter, and leave my brush size all the way up, and then I just turn down my opacity just a smidge here. And I'm just going to kind of brush a little bit of texture onto these rocks. You don't have to. It actually looks pretty good the way that it is. Especially for comic book style, they don't have like tons of detail in the coloring. I noticed like it's very, very basic, but like really cool types of like shading and yeah, just really, really neat. Different perspective on coloring, like than doing like, let's say, a realistic portrait or something like that. But I still like to add my own little flair on it and my own style, and I do like to add some detail anyway. Well, I'm not gonna go crazy with it, but a little bit is nice, I think. Some visual interest anyway, and I'm just using the pencil tool. I'm kind of playing with the opacity and the brush size as I go, and the reason why I'm using the pencil tool is because it adds this natural texture to the rock very effortlessly, especially on a bigger brush size. So you can see that when I'm brushing the pencil tool across the rock, I hope you can see. I can see it from where I am, but I hope that you can see that I'm getting like this corrugated texture look to it, which is pretty neat, and it's very effortless. You just have to press lightly on a bigger brush size, and don't go over the same area too many times, because then you'll lose that look, because you'll just be filling in all the corrugated areas. So yeah, and then you can blend it with other grays. If you want to bring up your brush size and get a little bit bigger, you can do that. Whatever is easiest. But yeah, just blending basically is the best way to achieve some texture in the rock with different grays or browns or whatever color your rocks are. So different shades of the same color basically. Leaving dark areas so you still have the shading that you created, that I created with the metal fill. That's why it doesn't matter if you use the metal fill, because if you're going to do detailing, you're going to lose a lot of that metallic look anyway. So that's why I use it as kind of a little trick. I guess I got that from the other app. But yeah, you can definitely use the metallic tool to get some built-in shading for sure. And that's all I'm doing. I'm just blending through the rocks, getting that texture. And you can add as much as you want. I just kind of analyze it and go until I get that satisfied feeling that it's about how I wanted it, which is coming very soon here. So I just like highlighting little dimples and stuff in the rock. I think it just adds for visual interest, and it just kind of makes it look more cool, I guess you could call it. So yeah, I just kind of went with some of the cracks. I'm gonna blend this bigger highlight out a little bit here. Even use black if you want to get in. If you really want to get into detail, you could do the black and go over some of the shadows and really make the rocks pop. Highlights and shading will always make your piece stand out. I don't really have to do lots with it because the shading on the metal tool is actually pretty sufficient. Here, make sure just touch up a couple areas here. Just kind of blending it with not quite a white, but like a light blue. I think that's good just like that actually. Maybe a little bit here. No, I don't like that. Just a little bit, I don't want it too much. I think what I'll do here is extend the orange a little bit and the yellow. looks all right. Okay, I have some shading around the edges. Now let's get to this explosion. I just noticed that this is part of the rock. So I'm just going to fill this really quick. And like I said, sometimes it's just hard to tell what is and what isn't. That's good. Not to make a big deal about it. There's this thing here too. I'm kind of wondering what that is. I guess we can make it whatever we want it to be. I think what I'm going to do is keep it as cement and just fill it, keep it dark, and then go to my pencil tool, add a little bit of shading to it. Okay, and then I'm going to go to my browns. I'm going to use my metal fill again. I don't think that this is webbing because it's too, no, it just doesn't look right to be webbing to me. With my pencil tool, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of okay, I think that looks all right. And I'm not going to do too much more with it. I think it looks fine the way that it is. Now the explosions. So for the explosions, I'm probably going to do, because I did the orange and the yellow back there to keep it kind of flowy, probably going to do, I'm going to grab the orange palette for now, go to my marker tool, and I'm just going to layer some colors in here. Some of the orange down first. I'm actually going to put on freehand mode for a minute here, so these lines aren't getting in my way. It's okay if you get some on the rock because we're going to do some detailing anyway, so I won't worry about that too much. Trying to stay out of the borderline. If I can't, I'll just have to fill it white again, I guess. Okay, now lower the opacity a bit and add some other colors in there. Raise it a bit and add some more colors in there. Go to your yellows, go to bright yellow, put some bright yellow in there, just kind of make it messy looking. Now I'm going to go to my laser and I'm going to outline this explosion here. Seems like a pretty alright opacity already and brush size, so I'm just leaving it from whatever I colored last. And this is why I didn't want to have the yellow coming too close over here. So I kind of figured my explosion was going to be somewhat yellow. Now I have to play with it to get the explosion part looking the way I want it. Kind of just using squiggly lines to get it looking explosion-like. Gonna go to orange, deepen, leave it bright, I guess. Just paintbrush for a second here. Laser, bringing that down. I just want to kind of get some kind of spikes coming out here. Highlight his finger a bit where it's coming out. Now I'm just playing with it to get it the way I want it to be finished as. Going to highlight the rocks a little bit to where the explosion is. It's not already highlighted from what I've done. Just deepening up a couple spots. As you can see, I'm a little bit fussy about my watercolor, which isn't usually such an issue here, but I just really feel like I want it to be a certain way. I just want to make sure I'm not looking at it after and I'm not liking it. I just want it to blend. I think that's actually good. Just put a bit. Nope, I don't like that. One more pass and then we're done. There, that's actually perfect. Perfect for what I was going for. I lost the blue down here, which I kind of figured was going to happen anyways. I knew it was going to end up being more lighter down there, and that's okay. But there is my amazing Spider-Man. I hope that you guys liked this video. I hope it was helpful in your coloring adventures and that you can use some of these tips and tricks to color some amazing Marvel characters. And we'll see you again next time. I'm going to pick out something cool to do again, maybe something familiar that everybody pretty much knows a lot about Marvel if you're a Marvel fan. So I'll try to use another big action hero for the next one. Okay, thanks for joining me, Brienne from Marvel. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.